Oh, we lost Zach.
Wait a minute. What?
We lost him.
Why am I gone?
You're just gone. Oh, technical difficulties here, but welcome into technical difficulties here.
Weird. I don't know what happened there.
It's all right.
Oh,
this is what real podcasting looks like to everybody that watches it. This is real.
Well, you spend like 5 to 10 minutes doing the prep, and then all of a sudden, just one element of StreamYard says, "Nah, Zach, redo it. Go back in, buddy. Restart."
I was gonna say, I don't know if I should do this. Who knows? Who knows? We're trying it out.
Give us feedback. Let us know in the comments.
Yeah,
How about that?
But welcome into Bear Down, part of the Coach Steve Show, one of the many segments here on the Coach Steve Show Network. That's what it just should be at this point.
It kind of feels that way, doesn't it?
It does. Part of the segment, if you like and subscribe, you'll find the playlist for all things Chicago Bears. Me and Zach will do our very best to do it weekly, but it all depends on my schedule because I'm all over the place here. But NFL is back. This is week 1. I think games start Thursday. I think Baltimore takes on Kansas City first on Thursday night.
Right, you are.
I don't know how I'll watch games now because my DirecTV doesn't have contract with Disney.
Oh, yeah.
So I went to watch the LSU game last night, went to ABC, and it said, sorry, due to our contract being up with Disney, you cannot watch this channel. And I was like, oh,
man,
great.
you missed on a good one, too. It's got you fixed.
Yeah, so it might be time to switch then if it's DirecTV stream with AT&T. So if they don't have it, I may have to switch.
Yeah, you have to think about that because season's coming underway here, and it's gonna be a big deal. It's great leadoff matchup for week 1, by the way.
Oh, fantastic! Because you see Derrick Henry in action with a new team.
Yeah.
Baltimore's always on people's favorites to win a Super Bowl or get there. Great matchup to start it off. But yeah, week 1, NFL's back. College football's been back, so that's been exciting. And now we've got NFL regular season. So I know football never ends because you have different leagues, but the two big ones, college football and NFL, the two powerhouses are back. So it's, we'll have games Thursday through Mondays from here on out. There's always big time football on, and Chicago Bears, they open up week 1, Tennessee Titans. And one question for people is this a trap game already, week 1 of the regular season? Is this a trap game already?
Great question. And I'll tell you, I'll let you lead it off after I say this. Looking at the roster moves Tennessee made kind of on the upgrades and kind of reading up on their preseason, just catching up a little bit. Might be a trap game. Might be a game that could surprise some people and how competitive it is. I mean, I think a lot of us have glossed over actually how many good forward moving free agent signings and draft picks were made for the Titans over this offseason. It's actually a pretty good test game for Chicago to kick things off.
Yeah, they're quiet. The Tennessee Titans have been a quiet team. And I was on here maybe by myself and I said, we can't take the Bears preseason with a full grain of salt. They went 4-0, but the Tennessee Titans went 3-0 in their preseason games.
Yeah, for real.
And so, can you take some of that into consideration? Probably. But, it's a trap game. People are already saying that the Bears are going to win by like 10 points or so. And, I think that's a good starting point. But as many question marks as we have about the Tennessee Titans, I know we watched preseason. There are still question marks. There are still question marks with the Chicago Bears team. If you're going on paper, Bears win. But as we all know, that game is not played on paper because last year, same thing. Bears on paper should, and they didn't. So it is a trap game. Week 1. I know the schedule's set up perfectly for Caleb Williams and company if you look at it on paper. But historically, Tennessee is always a tough physical team, no matter who the head coach is, and they always seem to find a way to just kind of bleed you out. Like they'll go on long drives. They don't. Will Levis coming into year 2, quarterback
Right,
out of
right.
Kentucky. What's he going to bring? He had 1,800 yards passing last year, 8 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Is he going to turn around and have a much bigger year? And need we forget, DeAndre Hopkins is on the team. I know he's questionable, but you still have a threat there at wide receiver.
Well, not even Hopkins. So here's the thing. Hopkins had a 1,000-yard receiving season. Credit, he's on the back half of 30, but still early 30s. Still is very competitive, still has a high motor. We saw it last year in Tennessee in what was actually a pretty quiet season by his standards. But what gets me here and is what I think is a great tune-up test team-wide is not – look, you look at Tennessee's offensive potential. They had DeAndre Hopkins and then the engine being Derrick Henry as usual in the backfield last year. Now they switched out. They still have Tajay Sharp or Spears, who was had a pretty solid rookie season, went under the radar for a lot of people that weren't like the hardcore fans. And, they had to switch out and they got Tony Pollard, who's been waiting for his moment to kind of take the reins elsewhere. I think even more so. And this is his shot in Tennessee to do that, I feel like. Then they spend $92 million on Calvin Ridley.
Yes.
And the other sneaky under the radar pickup that I kind of forgot about, they also picked up Tyler Boyd as well.
Yes, they did.
So really, really solid 3 receiver set that the Titans roll with, plus Will Levis, plus, and I know you'll know this pick. You should know it by heart for you being the Bama fan you are. J.C. Latham being picked up to help shore up what was one of the worst offensive lines in pass rush last season, 28th in the league. I double checked this. It's a good test overall for Chicago on all fronts. This is not the Titans team of last year that could barely grind out points and was trying to hold on for dear life. This on paper looks like a revamped team. So you can't approach it the same way. Way more weapons, without a doubt. Going to test the secondary a lot.
Yes, and then Skorkowski, the left guard, he should have a big year. I believe that's the Northwestern.
Going into year 2 for his tenure as well. And they move Latham. He's moving back to his traditional left tackle spot.
Yep.
After being a right tackle at Alabama. So again, it's going to be some tough challenges. Can you get the pass rush? I have full faith the Bears have the defensive run capabilities down packed. No doubt about it. I think they can keep that up. My question, I think you and I have talked about this when we've jumped on here to start the year. Can you get it to where we're not seeing a Khalil Mack part 2 where it's teaming up and only going on Sweat and no one else can get any lick in the backfield? Because that's my big question here, I think, is this is a great test for that. These are young guys, but this is a much revamped line that also brought in a veteran as well. I'm forgetting the name. It's Broncos center that came over too. They replaced their center. They got Latham at tackle. So great tests on that front. Who's going to generate that impact besides Montez Sweat?
Yeah, right now you have center as Ryan Bates, Coleman Shelton as the backup, and then my boy Doug Kramer Jr.
Oh yeah, that's on Chicago's side. Yeah, I know that for sure on that.
Yeah. Tennessee, they have Cushenberry the third starting, and then Daniel Brunskill is the backup.
Yeah, and that was Cushenberry's who I was referring to. He's actually really good at pass protection and has been really solid up until he went on free agent market last year. Again, this ain't the Tennessee team last year, but on paper. So I kind of have to throw all the 2023 film out the door. And Steve, I'll say Will Levis actually had a really good preseason. Now I know that's not crazy to talk only preseason, but his last game, 117.8 passer rating, touchdown pass, went on 2 scoring drives. One was a field goal against the Saints.
Yep. Which again,
and as you said, 3-0 in the preseason for this team too.
And that's where I don't know if it was with you or if it was by myself, because I can't remember walking down the stairs to the basement. So that's just kind of where I am.
Nice.
But it's hard because everybody in the world says don't take preseason seriously because it's preseason. But it also depends. Like we always do that. If a team goes undefeated, we're like the first ones to say, don't take the preseason so seriously because 4-0 means nothing going the regular season. But then if a team goes like 0-3, then people all of a sudden take it. They're like, wait a minute, we're 0-3. That's not good.
Oh
Like,
yeah, yeah.
So it's tough to not take things seriously in the preseason, but it kind of gives some confidence to other guys that aren't necessarily the starters when they're doing well in the preseason. So I think preseason does have its place, but I'd be okay with not having preseason. I think if we just went right in the regular season, but that's just me because you're wearing down these players. They're already going to play 17, 18 games and you're adding 3 more. But that's just me. But yeah, that gives Will Levis confidence. Last year, people forget Ryan Tannehill played and he had about 1,700 passing yards. And then Will Levis comes in and has 1,800. So if you think about it, if it was just one quarterback, you're looking at a 3,000 some odd passing season. So even though they were not the same Tennessee Titans as they used to be last year, they still had some numbers, but they weren't that playoff type of run that they had a couple years ago or they were poised to have. So I don't think they were as bad last year. Now you're coming in with some new weapons, revamped offensive line. They have that 3-4 defense put in, and they have some guys up front that are going to be able to move and do things. And again, Tennessee Titans are just kind of like a Pittsburgh Steelers. No matter how bad Pittsburgh is, they always have a physical defense or a physical offensive line. So it is a trap game, in my opinion, week 1. This is not a give me game like a lot of Chicago Bears fandom are thinking about and other podcasts. Like, yeah, I'm confident that they could win, but this is not a give me game. I don't know who this is. Bear down. Yep, there it is. Bear down.
Bear down.
But yeah, it's a total trap game, and I'm not worried. But again, we're coming in with people forget. I know Caleb Williams looks good in preseason, but we still have a rookie quarterback. Like we're still coming in with a rookie quarterback. We're still coming in with a new offensive coordinator, but he has experience. So maybe that will help. You have an unproven defensive players besides a couple. Some of those have to prove themselves when the regular season comes. We can look good all we want in the preseason, but when you're going against DeAndre Hopkins and Boyd and Pollard and all of them, what's that going to look like? You have a new running back in Swift. How are they going to handle it? And I'm very curious, and I'm saying a lot here, but I'm very curious with all the pressure put on the offense, if they don't come out and move the ball the way they think they should, what is that going to look like? Is there going to be breakdowns? Is there going to be frustration? Like, I'm very curious how they handle adversity when it's going to happen. There are times we may not see them score for 3 drives. Not saying it's going to happen week 1, but at some point it's going to happen. How do they combat that, especially with a young quarterback?
Absolutely. And I'll tell you what I want to see right out of the gate, something that we've watched the last few years under Luke Getsy, is can we get out to a fast start in the first half and kind of just sustain that? I really want to see Shane Waldron kind of come out and be sort of creative in ways we saw in the preseason, kind of getting more guys moving around and kind of out and about, getting the defense a little bit more on its toes to try and kind of cover all options, but can't perfectly do all options out and about. Because here's the deal, Tennessee, to me, I'm looking at this and credit, the other side of this coin. Yes, it's a revamped offense on paper and whatnot, but again, Chicago's greatest strength, as much as I want to see this offense blow up because it's on paper too, looks incredible again. And we saw this preseason, the weapons abound, not being used entirely all the time. The potential is extremely high. Right. But what is going to drive that potential is the next step, or whatever you want to call it, of Matt Eberflus taking over the reins of this defense last year and putting the pressure up to the 11th degree, or basically going back to what I saw in his tenure in Indianapolis. Just have those guys go out, dominate, and cause havoc. Let the offense get a breather. To me, Tennessee, that's one thing you're going to be able to attack. Their defense isn't this beyond spectacular unit. on all sides. They're very middle of the road in terms of last year's rankings, and they didn't do crazy amounts of changes that are, I think, are eye popping. Yes, they still have L'Jarius Sneed as a cornerback. They brought in Chidobe Awunze from Cincinnati, who is a solid CB. Now, credit injury issues and had unfortunately some stuff coming into camp that he had to recover from, but still, Quandre Diggs, they brought him into and solid vet, but more on the back end of his career. Beyond that, I'm not really saying this is the worrying part of this game. If anything, I want to see Shane Waldron attack the defense, start forcing Tennessee on the opposite side of the ball to start getting a little more antsy and having to take some risks. And I think that's where you're going to see, to me, a best chance to get away with a week 1 win is, hey, this offense needs to be what has been advertised and what we've been talking about for 2 other previous years with Justin Fields and crew. Now, all the cards put together. This is the perfect game to say, okay, this is putting all the cards on the table and showing what we have done, with the Eberflus and Poles combo. This is the grand scheme. I think Tennessee's a great one because the defense is middle of the road. And if you can get ahead of the game, you can then unleash that defense. You can unleash that defense that has a ton of cash behind it in Chicago now. Right. And just put pressure and essentially just freaking swarm over Will Levis and company.
Right.
That's how I want to see this play out.
JP has a few comments in here. Says he'll struggle. I'm assuming he means Caleb Williams, but we've seen better promise than Fields. He also didn't come from a stacked college team, which helps build his confidence. Yeah, I think we've said that from day one. Is Fields was surrounded by first, second round picks, and that obviously are going to win. Caleb Williams did not necessarily have that. He had good players, but not necessarily didn't have that. We're seeing more promise from Caleb Williams in the passing game than we are anything else. What else did he say? Can we hold back Simmons is the question.
Good question. I think we can. I don't think this is a problem. Nate Davis has played well during this season. I think honestly, across the board, I actually like the line play we got right now. So there's still a little lingering in the middle, but I feel like it's less of a problem than last year. But outside edge wise, passing wise, we should be able to take as much as possible. I think this is one of the best line combos we've had in a hot minute. I'll even argue since 2019, like that kind of like early Matt Nagy era, where it felt like we had almost an offensive line that could do no wrong at that time. Right. I still, again, could we do better interior wise, per se? Does Ryan Bates say the greatest center in the world? No, but I think we have upgraded a little bit enough, and we have seen that we have a offensive line, I think, that's much better in sync at the beginning of the year than it ever was to start the first half of last year. Right. That's all I want.
Right, because you have to think, Braxton Jones, we know that the bad parts, but you would hope he gets better. Yeah. Tevin Jenkins just has to stay healthy, but also another thing that was bad for Jenkins was they kept moving him everywhere. He was right tackle, left guard. They kept bouncing him around.
Just keep him a guard. He's best when he's playing guard. That's what you want to do. And hopefully less, again, stable line, less movement. These guys get to gel and know their position and pack it down. Right. There's no having to do a flavor of the week. Right. We don't want that. That's chaos.
Bates isn't like you said, a huge upgrade, but hopefully it's more of a consistent play from Bates. Not, that's all we need is consistency.
Competent center that reads and digests what might be a blitz or might be faking out a alignment. That's all I want to see in my pass protection, especially up the middle. You can't give up inside leverage. That is a lineman's sin in any spot on the line. Don't give up the inside leverage. That's all I'm asking.
Nate Davis at guard, I think, will work. He's a guard.
And he's had a good preseason. A lot of people have said he's come back and he's like focused in this year compared to last season.
And then Darnell Wright, second year into the system here, and he should be good. And then I will say his name wrong. Kareem the kid from Hinsdale Central.
Oh,
He's third string right now, but I do think that he will be a serviceable guy that you could plug in if something were to happen. He's lengthy, he's strong. He went to Yale, so he is actually very smart. And so I'm not saying he's going to come and be dominant, but if something does happen, you could plug him in. I think right now he's third string tackle. God forbid something happens to Jenkins. I think he is built to be a tackle or a guard, so I think you could throw him in there. And so Larry Borum's already on the IR, so that's not good.
Yeah, that's a shame. I mean, and Larry and Borum was a few write-ups I saw. He was borderline not going to make the roster to some people. So lucky he's even on. But I know you and I, when we talked our draft episode, I like Karan. I like because of the fact we've talked in the past. He's played both guard and the tackle spot. So
right, he's very versatile.
Versatility is very good for a lineman like that, So
it says O-line will be tested. I mean, yes and no. I don't think that, like you've already said this, the Titans defensive line is not this. They have Simmons. The rest of them are, not these world beaters. The only reason why they might be tested is because it's a new group put together for the first game. And then if they run their 3-4 defense and they're stunning and they're blitzing and they're bringing certain pressures and they're going to disguise things, that type of thing, that's why they'll be tested. But, I mean, we've heard nothing but good things about these linemen all preseason. So I would think that they'll be fine.
Right. The other one I'd be focused in on, just who might get his due, is Harold Landry. But again, my issues aren't with the outside edges. I think I think Chicago's nailed who they've got for their outside contain at this point. All the questions and all the focus on just making sure that's correct this time really comes down to the interior. And really the only scrutiny is going to be coming with a healthy Tevin Jenkins. It's really going to be just double checking that Nate Davis had a good preseason that translates to a good regular season, and that Ryan Bates either stays healthy or is at least, just like we talked, a competent center, reads and digests what he's seeing pre-snap, and does it well enough to where we don't give up free lanes to the quarterback on a regular once to twice a game basis like happened the last 2 seasons. That's all that matters. Right. And that's the thing. I think Harold Landry you can contain. I think you can contain Simmons. How aggressive the Titans will be in the blitz to be determined, and that's going to be a test of the interior line most likely. So we'll see how that goes.
And I think the Bears, watching them preseason a little bit, I'm going to take a guess, and that if the edge starts giving us pressure, they will get into different tighter formations and shifts to work around that and put Cole Kmet or even Everett out there to block and help that situation. I think it'll be more well-designed because, again, we have a experienced offensive coordinator now coming in who had to work with similar type of players to extent in that at Seattle. And I think we can scheme that better up this year to try to help that. So I'm putting pressure on the offense coordinator, but I mean, you kind of have to. That's the things that we want to see in Chicago is if we go spread and we see 6 guys coming, is he able to like, hold on, and then like run somebody into block, like those type of things. Like we're not going to leave them out to dry and give Caleb Williams. You always want Caleb Williams to feel comfortable. You want him to have an out. You want a way to get the ball out of his hand. And so I think from that aspect, if we start to see problems with that, they'll scheme it up. I think there'll be much better schemes this year than we saw last year because you have an experienced guy now coming in and able to help with that.
I do want to see, this is something, and again, I don't less talked on this because I trust the Bears line with rush since they've been leaning on the run last 2 years. I mean, second in rush last year, best rushing team the year prior in 2022. The Titans, again, one of the upgrades and key ones they made was Tavondre Sweat from Texas is going to be anchoring nose tackle. And again, if we're talking interior pressure and interior challenges, well, Ryan Bates and company in the middle are going to be tested, I think, really quick with what was one of the best interior linemen in the NFL draft this past year that Tennessee picked up. Again, well, just trying to identify challenges because, I mean, I really feel like the game's going to get settled and the pace of this game gets settled on Bears offense versus Tennessee's defense. I really do. Because that's really going to dictate what Chicago can do on the opposite side. I would love for them to send Kyler Gordon in that nickel blitz package and just get Will Levis off and kind of scrambling, get somebody back there so that you can alleviate them double teaming Montez Sweat all the time and having to say, okay, one of you's got to step up. I don't want that situation. We saw that with Khalil Mack too much. And right now we don't have that second guy yet that we can claim is truly number 2 or the 1B. And that's what I don't want to be in that position. I'd rather them let Matt Eberflus send someone or put the pressure on as much as possible. Do it that way.
Right.
That's how this game is won by Chicago. I can't stress that enough.
We got to see big play out of the linebackers. This team, I have to compare it to like Illinois. Going to Illinois season, they're like a lot of pressures on our linebackers this year because we need better linebacker play. Same thing with Chicago. You got to see Edmonds be able to blitz and make some plays. They got to be able to fly around. So I think if either way, you want to bring pressure outside, cool, so he doesn't get double teamed. You want to bring pressure up the middle, forcing the offensive line to slide one way and get Sweat one-on-one, cool. I think you have to start being creative. And I think they will, because I think in the back of Matt Eberflus's head is like, if we struggle this year, my seat will truly be on fire.
Well, the combo is going to start right away if they take a loss week 1. It was already hot last year when things were collapsing in the first 4 weeks. Imagine if you take a loss. Now, close loss, maybe you get away with something, okay? Maybe Tennessee surprised you again. Some people maybe overlooked. Some of us talked about, again, how much they've revamped their roster, whatever. If somehow this is like a 2-score loss or something like that, okay, yeah, we're gonna Chicago media, you're gonna see it, Sun Times and the Tribune and 670 The Score, 10-7, ESPN 1000. They're gonna go on Monday and they will start that crusade up once again.
Oh yeah.
It'll feel like September last year. Exact same feeling. I know it.
So, I mean, that's kind of the next question is it a must-win game? Is this a must-win game, or is the season over if they lose the game? So
no,
that's the question.
No. I think it's I can't go must-win. That seems so very extreme. But
or Bears fans are extreme, so everything is going to be.
I know. I'm preaching to you and I, really, our miniature little section of the choir is what I'm talking to. I don't see this as say must win, but I will for Chicago as like their year. It's not a must win for Matt Eberflus to kind of be like, hey, this is what everything we did has led up to. The moving on from Justin Fields, the acquiring, well, more polls, I guess, but if Eberflus will get tagged in this. But again, moving on from Justin Fields, trading for Keaton Allen, getting Rome Odunze, and getting down to Swift, all these pieces that we have collected, re-signing Jalen Johnson, getting Montez Sweat and getting him a massive contract, all this stuff, it leads to this moment where we step one foot in the right direction to kick things off. Again, I think around Chicago, people expect this team to be a playoff eligible team on paper. And I know it's a rookie quarterback, but again, Caleb Williams is considered like the prodigal son. And then you consider the fact all these pieces have been brought together, and this is considered the culmination of what Poles has wanted to start as successful play. He's even said, this is the team. I feel like we have a unit that can start really generating wins and generating good Bears football again. You got to start on the right foot. Tennessee, to many people, like you're saying, Steve, feels like it's like a shoe-in that Chicago's going to get this win week 1. Like, I've actually been surprised. The line's only 4.5 points. It's a 1-score game by Vegas's standards, according to DraftKings. But anything I've read or talked, it almost feels like this is like Chicago's game to lose right off the bat. If you just read on the outside of the lines is how I see it. And I don't know if I fully agree with that per se, but we'll see. They get a home game at least. They get it in Chicago. Like everything's stacked that way for them. But that's not saying much when last several years, week one's been kind of sans 2022, kind of a nightmare.
Oh God. But yeah, and that goes back to that Hard Knocks episode where Nick Saban is talking to Matt Eberflus and saying pressure like this can kill a young quarterback. I also think it could hurt a team as well. Now, Keenan Allen's been around the block. Moore's been around the block. Sweat's been around the block. So I think for some of those guys, it's going to be fine. But even the O-line, Darnold Wright in the second year, you're bringing a new guy in. You have some pieces that are not old, I should say. You have new pieces on your defense. And so again, if this is a tight game, if it's 17-17 in the fourth quarter, are the Bears going to tense up and be like, wait a minute, all we've heard was we're supposed to come in and win this game? Are the fans, even then, if we win by 3 points, are the fans even going to sit there and say, Matt Eberflus, we should have won this game by 2 touchdowns, which I don't think is realistic. Like, if it happens, cool. But again, this is not a shoo-in, so I'm just very worried that the fandom, because right now we're all kind of friends. Everybody's kind of friendly to each other. But is it going to be one of those where it's 17-17 with 5 minutes left and the Bears are on defense and we got to get stops and all this stuff? Are we all going to start saying, well, he should be fired. This team's not good. Caleb Williams this, Caleb Williams that. And like, that's not what you want. Right. So even though Caleb Williams is drafted into a very good situation, probably one of the best for a first round pick to come into this situation, but it's also a bad situation in that there's so much expectation for this team because it's Chicago.
Well, all the national media has been basically where it's going. This has to be the best situation a rookie quarterback's ever stepped into in the history of the NFL. And like, there's been few that can compare it. I mean, again, on paper, like, dude, this should be a playoff team. Like, I've told you, I tell everyone else, there's no reason this team can't be minimum a wild or at its max to me. And I feel like it'll get this, a 10-7 wild card team that goes in and maybe it doesn't go all the way or anything, but at least gets there. That's what it should be. That's what we've been building to. We've been patient, right?
Right.
It's about patience, is it not? So this is supposed to be the year. Okay.
And so I guess you continue the question. If we lose the game, which is possible, I want the very little people that listen to this, it is very possible that we lose this game. But if it's competitive and there's good things happening, like what if they do win 27-24? Let's say it was a scoring fest. We just gave up a couple big plays and they went on a field goal. And we're competitive and there's shining moments. And I hate moral victories. But if we lose this game and we walk away seeing those things, like if Caleb Williams comes out, he's moving the pocket well. Maybe we're just not hitting the deep ball today, but we are moving it. We're running the ball, scoring. Defense is right there. We just can't get off the field, but it's things that they can fix. Is that a moral victory walking away from it going like, okay, we lost, but there are shining bright spots that we can be happy about because then we've got to do well in these first 6 games or 7 games.
I think you'll see that. Like, I think you're going to you're going to see people talk that way after week 1, if that does happen. Now, if it's like, especially like say it's like a missed field goal, like say we lose on like Cairo Santos somehow can't get it done and we take an L and we got to go back next week. It's going to be, hey, we just need to finish, but this team's here or something like that. Now if it, like I said, it's like a train wreck and like Caleb Williams throws picks or whatever. And somehow the defense was last season where it's like, yeah, Montez can get sacks, but besides a run defense, passing options, if you can't lock down the number 1 gets open, which again, seeing Tennessee's offense, where again, we've talked, you got 3 quality receivers on there. Tyler Boyd's no slouch. He was buried in a roster and did carry some of the load in famine years in Cincinnati. There's going to be options to throw to if Will Levis has time. Calvin Ridley is back in his second year post a year ban for gambling. And last year I felt like he was on and off is all I can tell you. D-Hop's going to take a lot of that sweat off of him so that he can be a number 2 like he was in Atlanta.
That's funny though. I don't mean to. I forgot all about him because of that thing.
Right?
I forgot all about it. But man, he had a year off to relax and like be. Oh,
I know. Feels a little weird, doesn't it? And what's weirder is remember that story. So he's on Atlanta. He takes some kind of a mental health leave.
Yep.
And during that mental health leave, gambles on football games, which leads to him basically getting a year ban.
Mm-hmm. I forgot all about that till you said that.
I know. It feels like eons ago, even though it was only like 2-ish years ago that that's happened. Verging on 3, I guess, if you want to get that way. Speaking of that, Mark Gort from 670 The Score. Here's a quote from Jalen Johnson. We were talking about hype and all that with the season. So Jalen Johnson says, quote, "I'm done buying into the hype. Everything that we got in this locker room, it sounds good. It seems good. But at the end of the day, none of that matters. What matters is what we're going to do this weekend." Sounds like us, Steve.
Yep.
Last few years. You know what I am done buying? I'm done buying stock and hype. I'm ready for everyone to start buying results, period. Too many hype beasts. And again, this team on paper, I'm buying hype stock this year because I agree this should be a good team. But I know this stuff's going to be useless if they do not perform early and often. Well, we did the same song and dance last year too.
How many times as Bears have we done this where we should be good? And it's only like the Bears fans that say we should be good. And then it doesn't happen. And we're like, why are we not good? You know, and
where did it go? Where'd the wins go?
And it's even worse on your ESPN platforms because they said the same thing. And then when it doesn't go well, again, never mind. Because they blamed everybody else but Justin Fields. And that was the only problem. That's my other fear is how the national media will do this. If the Bears are struggling this year, are they going to blame everybody but Caleb Williams? I do not want that. They did with Justin Fields. I do not want to see it with Caleb Williams. Blame everybody. That's the way I roll.
And now here's the thing, Steve, and you know this. And again, I'm hoping Caleb just comes out and is like his preseason performances and just plays astoundingly well. But as a reminder, and everyone knows this is kind of like one of those underlying rules of covering and listening to football for the NFL teams. And unless it's like Josh Rosen or like we can even go back and I've watched film to verify this because of my dad's talking about this. Cade McNown. Unless it's someone like you watch the film and you just see it's not working right away. There's always a little bit of sliver hope. The rookie year gets a massive pass. It has a bunch of pass on it. So,
but that's why this is a unique situation. Is he going to get that pass because of the weapons around him? Like usually when you have a first round quarterback, you are going somewhere where maybe you have a receiver, but they're still building and it's not quite there yet. It's going to take 2 or 3 seasons. You have it right now.
Yeah.
So I'm very curious. See, me personally, I want to give him those first 6, 7 games to like develop and continue to just show your improvement, right? So like, let's say the first game you complete, you're 13 of 18 or 20. Okay, then the next time, is that percentage higher? Hey, are you, and I'd actually want to watch the film, are you actually having pocket presence? Are you not making it harder on the linemen? Are you checking plays when you know that it's not there? Like if it's a deep pass, but you know it's not going to be there, are you checking out of it? Are you getting the ball out quick? You know, those type of things. So I'm just very afraid that they're not going to give him a pass after maybe week 2. They're like, hey, this team is built to win right now, and you've got to win right now.
Tough call. I mean, now with credit, he's shown in preseason, I think, what we're all wanting to see. I think that helps the conversation as well. If it was a dreadful preseason too, I think we'd already have been moving away from that needle. But again, the highlights we've gotten and what we've seen basically looking like his USC self, his best USC version of himself, by the way. Not some of the lower moments, but yeah.
I think he was voted a captain too, so that kind of says something.
Yeah, he was voted as a captain, by the way. So also big deal. And again, we've seen with Hard Knocks and kind of listening to the quotes of him, he's taken a massive leadership role. People in the locker room respect his attitude,
Which
at least in terms of how he commands the locker room. It's impressive for a rookie.
that was my biggest question marks was I think he can play. I think he has the intangibles. I think he's a better passer than like a Justin Fields. I think he has a strong arm. And I think he's more of a pocket guy. He can run and get you a first down here and there. But my big two question marks were his leadership and getting along with everybody else. And then how's he going to handle it when you don't win or things aren't going your way and you come into a game and you throw 3 interceptions. So far, the leadership part has been shown in preseason. And like I said, I'll never forget, it was like the first or second episode where you have like Keenan Allen and Odunze even like coming up to him. We forget we have Odunze too as a rookie and coming in, and they looked at him and said, "This is your team. You need to step up." And then the story of him telling veteran guys, "Hey, our locker room's a mess. We need to clean it up. So if it's your mess, you clean it up." Like the ball's on you to go up to veteran guys and say, "Do this."
Got that Ed Reed mentality. That like the first thing I think of with like locker room cleanup or like respecting the space and like that leadership tactic. I think of like Ed Reed talking about that because like he had a piece about that. I think like either his Hall of Fame speech or like at post Hall of Fame, where like he was talking. That's the thing he used to do. You know.
And then I like the dynamic. Again, it's Hard Knocks, so whatever. But I like the dynamic between Eberflus bringing him in all the time and having one-on-one meetings. Because usually when you're a defensive-minded head coach, you'll talk to the quarterback, but you could kind of care less. Like, hey, you're on offense. You got to figure this out. Mm-hmm. He is like invested. He is bringing him in to make sure he's good. They're having these conversations. He's standing behind Caleb Williams as he's doing his plays and trying to give him insight as to what the defense might be doing. Like, hey, you know, the reason why this happens is because they're doing this and this and this. And so I think another question mark is probably what's the next Matt Eberflus step, right? We've had complaints about maybe certain game management, maybe this, maybe this. But one thing that's never swayed is those players actually like him, right? Like they talked about that last year, like, oh, he's going to lose the locker room. And when we were going on that losing streak and he was going to lose the locker room, I don't think one player has really come out and said anything bad about the way he runs it, the way he talks to them. And watching Hard Knocks, it seems like they like being around him. It seems like he is a guy that they want to talk to. He and Brian Poles seem to have a decent relationship. So the next step forward is what kind of head coach is he going to be coming into year 3 now? Like,
yeah. Well, actually, no, I'm taking it back. No, that'll be year 4.
Yeah. What kind of
2021? So
what kind of step is he going to take as a head coach and kind of manage everything?
Good question. I mean, yeah, I that's I think what we want to see specifically. And actually, I messed that. I'm going to double check myself so I'm not wrong. I mix up you know what? I mix up because I'm mixing Justin Fields there. It's 2021 was Justin Fields' first year. So that's why. No, this is year 3. So this is year 3 of the Matt Eberflus experiment.
That's a big year for coaches is your year 3.
And it's also why I think a lot of that pressure has been talked about is, you know, you have 2 losing seasons. His first pretty mediocre. Second was looking like it was going to be. And luckily mid-season, they turned the table a little bit and actually seemed like they could maybe make a late postseason run, although that was very select few people thought that was the case. It didn't happen. Go figure. But flipped around the script a little bit, finished 7-10. So can you get a winning year? You know, or I guess the grand question, and again, these are the McCaskies we're talking about. Can you get a good enough year that move the needle in the right direction? Which I guess if I'm trying to envision the mind of George McCaskey, I guess I could totally see a 9-8 season, even borderline 8-9 if maybe they had a lot of close games. That Matt is still around after this season. It's possible. This again, it's the McCaskies. They generally don't want to do these moves, but you know, I digress. You know, depends on how they like the current regime. So.
Right, because last year I I don't think they ever said they were close, but the reports were like they're kind of leaning towards doing it. And then
I think it was once Matt and company started winning mid-season, because early season was a train wreck. They were getting annihilated in every space publicly about how this was being run, and they turned it around. Now that's where I think the pressure, like we talked earlier, comes in. You can't have a bad loss to start
no,
the season.
no,
In a game where everyone's labeling you as a early win,
right.
and a team that is being written off in Tennessee right away.
That's why for me, I think the Bears will win. I don't think it's going to be a blowout. I don't think it's going to be anything like that. I just want to see competitiveness, and I want to see the offense look like they know what they're doing, and we're not just winging it like last year. And I hate questioning play calls for coaches, but there were times last year you're like, really? Like, that's what you decided? But we're not in film. We don't know what they're looking at. We don't know. That's all it needs to be. And then, of course, we've said this a million times. Defensively, can you just at least get that quarterback to move around? You don't have to hit him, but if you're making him move to be uncomfortable. And Will Levis can run. He did at Kentucky. He's a strong guy and can run downhill if need be. So that's another piece of this.
Yep.
And you just need to be competitive. Like if they lose by 3 or 7 points and they were competitive and they're right there, I'll be upset that they lost, but I'm not going to sit there and say fire him. Like, no, there's things that are happening, but you can't afford to do that much longer if that's the case. Because then you go to Houston, and I'm curious to see what CJ Stroud will look like in year 2. Then Indianapolis, which they're going to have a first-year quarterback, and Trent Richardson, he was hurt last year, but he's, can you do something good there? Los Angeles is kind of up in the air because they're either going to be really good or really bad. Carolina, which they've been bad. They were real bad. And then Jacksonville, they always go on that roller coaster. And then now you got a new look Washington, new look Arizona, new look New England. So it is kind of set up where if you're competitive week 1 and then it continues, you're looking pretty good. But if you don't do that, you lose by 10 points against Tennessee, and then you go to Houston and you're not competing, and then you go to Indianapolis and you're not competing. Then we're starting to have the big question marks going, maybe this isn't what it's going to be. And we're going to have a new head coach next year if it doesn't get turned around. And then we're kind of starting over again.
Kind of the beginning of the year reminds me of a reverse of last season's first 4 games where my worry last year was, can you get a fast start and then get into like your gauntlet in the middle where you're going to get a lot of those like division games and like higher caliber opponents, and then maybe make it out of it where you're like 500-ish or close. This year, it's okay. Can you make it out of the 4 games and to start the season at like 500 at minimum? I think 2-2 through like week 4 is a great sign. If you can get to 4-2 at the bye, you're going the direction I expect them to. Because I think, to me, Carolina is a winnable game. Jacksonville, to me, as much as I know they had some excuses last year with Lawrence coming back injured. They were 8-3 until Trevor Lawrence played Cincinnati and got knocked out.
Right.
Comes back, wasn't fully healthy, and they couldn't tune back in. Turnover issues aside, that's a winnable game to me. So that's where I like the schedule, where it's can you get to 4-2? Tennessee to me is one of those 2 like minimum wins in this first 4, and the other one, while I am debating it in my head, it's probably going to be, I'll eventually settle in Indianapolis or Los Angeles, because Houston should be one of those teams that's taking the next level step beyond being a wild card surprise to everyone. Or they're going to have their target on their back because now they know it's a good squad over there.
And is CJ Shark going to have a sophomore slump? That'll be
true. That too. Yes, absolutely. Does have a lot of good weapons, but do they stay healthy? Does he not take a dip down?
Right.
But it would help a ton if Chicago gets this win to start, because then you can go into Houston and go, hey, 1-1, media firestorm's not going to be stupid, because if you do lose to a good Houston team, well, okay, it's a good Houston team. Say they start 2-0. Okay, well, now All right, now we're proving this is a damn good roster here in Chicago. Okay.
Right. Because even then, after the bye week, Washington, Arizona, those should be competitive, winnable games because they're trying to rebuild and do their thing.
Right, you are.
And even New England, like they're rebuilding and they're trying to figure it out. Not saying it would be easy because it's New England, but you have a new head coach, you got quarterback stuff going on there. Like even that is like, okay, if you're coming out of the bye week above 500, you're feeling pretty good about yourself going into those 3 games. And if you come out of those 3 games going 2-1 in those games, we're feeling really good because then you got Green Bay. You've got to
Right.
feel really good hosting Green Bay because then it's that gauntlet of Green Bay. Even though Minnesota is in turmoil right now, it seems like it's
Jesus.
still
Yeah.
it's still a division game, so things kind of get thrown out the window. But then you get Detroit, San Francisco, Minnesota again, Detroit. See, like so you have this gauntlet near the end. So you have to stay healthy and you have to show competitiveness. And I think by the bye week, we'll know. Like by the bye week, we're going to be sitting there going, this is it. Like we're going to compete for
Without
a
a
wild
doubt.
card spot, at least a wild card spot, or we have to go on a major run in order to get it. Like if it's that bye week, we're going to know.
Yeah. I mean, look, I definitely am with you. And I also think it's just like these first 6 games, like the fact that, I mean, me being conservative in nature, only pinning Carolina is the one where I'm like, and almost 100% lay a bet down they're going to win that one, and then everything else to me is kind of like either really good opponent or could be on a slump, like you talk Los Angeles, like personally, I think Los Angeles is going to be a good one. Maybe not the division winner, but a wild card contender nonetheless.
Right.
Also, playing against Los Angeles and Los Angeles for the Bears has been a freaking haunted house mess recent seasons. If it has LA, it's not a good time for Chicago usually. And if it's the Rams and Matthew Stafford, so would be nice to go in there and get a win this time with recent years beatings that we've had with them. Indianapolis again, Anthony Richardson, if healthy, I mean that's the next Cam Newton right there. I want to see how that kid plays. So
he's got to stay healthy though, and it's technically going to be his rookie year, and so I'm just kind of curious how that's going to look. And but what's amazing about Trent Richardson is he didn't play a lot of college games. That's what's crazy. And I agree with you; he could be a Cam Newton style, but people are putting him on this high pedestal already. I'm like, dude only played like 13 college games, if that.
He got a ton of hype this preseason too.
I don't know why. They're like, oh my God, but like one of the preseason games, he played bad. And I'm like,
right. That did spark a debate, but I've been, even with that game, tons of upswing in online morale for Anthony Richardson. I think it's the size, man. Like it's he's basically Cam Newton out there in terms of like size and bulk.
That's true.
Throw the ball, runs a lot.
Oh no, I think he has some upside, but I just don't know if it's going to happen this year.
Oh yeah,
it's technically his rookie year. Now, if he played all last year, then you're having a different conversation. But like you getting hurt and not playing all year, and then coming in, they're like, "Oh my God!" Like, hold on a second.
I got questions still, but yeah,
he could be. I don't disagree with anybody. He could be, but again, not playing a lot of college games. At least Cam Newton played at junior college and then won a national championship and showed like, oh, I can do this. Trent Richardson, what they lose that they almost lost to LSU. It was the LSU thing where they threw the shoe and stuff like that.
Yeah. No, you're right.
And had some moments, but no, that'll be a test for the defense when you're going up against a guy that can run and is big. That'll be a true test for the defense there. And Indy can run the ball too. So I'm getting ahead of myself, but yes, you have to.
I know. Exciting. We got football less than 3 days. And we're gonna be back in the NFL season.
Less than 3 days, and then Sundays or Mondays will be known as Bears excitement or Bears sadness. It will be one of the
back on the grind.
Back on the grind of dealing with certain people at CHGO and people at the Atlantic, and I'm fired up to get back after them, except for one guy. Greg Bragg's never go after.
Of course. Gotta leave. Greg gets an immunity card. That just doesn't matter.
He
Guy's
gets
great.
immunity card. I'm trying to be more like Greg, like him this year, like more positive, more uplook, because I'm not out to prove anybody wrong this season. The last few seasons, I was out to prove people. Like I told you about Justin Fields, I told you this was going to happen, and I'm not about that this year. But just besides the leadership stuff, which you can't see, that's a locker room thing we're never going to see.
Correct.
So I can't prove any of that. But I am not out to prove anybody wrong this year. So I'm more conservative about it, and I'm more positive about it especially because what we saw in the preseason. If he sucked and showed no promise, we'd be having a whole different conversation.
Yeah,
But the fact that he showed
hit the pause button ASAP if that was the case, but no, it was not. It's what we wanted from USC. So yeah, I like the odds.
So
keep
who
the defense up. Yeah.
So I guess, are they going to win? Are the Bears going to get their first win? Good
question. I am going to say that they do get their first win of the season. And I do think that if we're talking like covering the over under, I do think that they win by double digits personally. Because I do believe fully in my methodology on how they get the win. And I'll reiterate it again. I think defensively or offensively, what's going to happen is Chicago's going to take advantage of what is again, not terrible, but more middling defense. And they will find opportunities to score and get ahead early. If that happens, and I think it will, that's where the game gets the pace set. Because then again, you can let Eberflus and company basically scheme and confuse and do whatever the hell they want against the Titans to kind of either get a pass rush back there or basically force the Titans to become one-dimensional. Because I do fully believe Chicago can be the same team they've been the last several years under Matt Eberflus, defensively top 5 in rush. I don't think with Garvin Dexter and Billings in the middle that's going to change, or the fact that you got TJ Edwards and company and Tremaine Edmonds that have been excellent at hunting down and just finishing off Jack Sanborn, you name it. Those guys have been fantastic in those 2 levels and in the middle at slowing down the run and jamming up the run lanes. So I think it becomes a one-dimensional game. It's going to come down to getting pressure on Will Levis, and I think the Bears will go up early. They'll stay up early, and they're just going to crank up the blitz and basically cause the second-year QB to either make it or break it as being the primary facilitator for getting yards downfield. And I think Chicago walks away with the win. Give me an opening week win, 31-17 in Chicago. It'll be a coming out party for what I think is the year that fans should be now fully expecting this to be a playoff team. And it will be a great jump start to that Houston game the next week as that next step to see, okay, how really good is this team? I think they walk away with a 2-score win. But again, if you don't start hot and you play in Tennessee's hand, like we talked, that's where things get iffy. But I am confident it does not turn into a game where Chicago gets sluggish on the offensive side of the ball.
Yep.
That's my banking.
Yeah, I'm going with 28-17 Bears just because like I say, one of two things. If they start off hot and the defense can just take some risks here and do this and do that, that's what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
If the Bears start off slow, then we'll really see pressure on it. Can they come back and score points? And that's kind of what my fear is. But I think the Bears have a good running back room. So I think when stuff goes wrong, they're going to be able to run the football. With your athletes on the outside, you could get some outside runs. And I think we all should feel more confident having an experienced offensive coordinator there to be able to make adjustments and see what Tennessee is doing to them. And then hereby, hopefully, make some of the adjustments that they need to make and say, okay, this is what they're going to take away. This is what we're going to do. Because you finally have the weapons, I think, to combat what defenses are going to do to you one way or the other. Oh, you're taking away the run game and forcing Caleb to slide and move. Cool. Short game, screens, these type of things. Like we have that type of offense now. And the shifts and the unbalanced looks and stuff like that, putting the tight ends in there, I think that, and the defense have to stay balanced because who are you going to stop? Keenan Allen, you're going to stop Moore, you're going to stop Odunze. So I think they have to stay more balanced.
Yeah, for real.
They might double Moore because he's a deeper threat, but cool.
Mm-hmm.
Keenan Allen knows how to get open. Cole Kmet emerged last year as a catcher. If he can take the next step up and really become a good blocker, watch out, because then it's there. And I think they'll keep it simple for Caleb Williams. I think things will be very simple, like, hey, 1, 2, 3, get rid of the ball. And then once he starts proving that as the game goes, then it becomes, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, get rid of the ball. And if they can do that and he can stay confident and they're able to adjust, I think they'll win. It's not going to be a blowout. It's not going to be 28-0 and then Tennessee scores 17. I think it's Bears might get up by 10 and then Tennessee scores and they score, that type of game. And that's fine with me. So I'm going 28-17. And if the Bears can get up 7-0, 10-0, then Chicago can start to take risks, certain blitzes, start to play around with what they think they can do.
That's what I want to see right there.
And then if you're able to do that and not show too much on offense, you keep that for Houston and say, if we can move the ball without doing a lot of things, save it for Houston and then go from there. So that's what I think the Bears will do.
Now, let me ask you this, just as final piece to this, for if we're predicting a Bears win. You got an X Factor player? I got 2 of them, by the way. I want to hear yours before I jump in, but I got 2.
My X Factor?
Yeah. Well, just players you feel like are going to make or break how this goes.
For offense or defense, or does it matter?
Just wherever. It can be as generic as saying Caleb Williams. It can be like specific one position person, you name it. Because mine are a little more, they're not the big time names, but they are ones that I'm going to be analyzing in this game a lot when I get to my section.
I mean, it's obvious to say Caleb Williams, but I also look at DeAndre Swift in the run game. What kind of impact is he going to make on the offense? Because him and Keenan Allen are the new guys, but DeAndre Swift's a decent running back, but we got some big shoes to fill. Montgomery been gone. They were unhealthy last year. If he can come out, he and Khalil Herbert, the 1-2 punch, come out and run the ball, that's going to put the Bears in a good spot there. Defensively, again, I'm looking at the entire linebacking group. I think our secondary is going to be able to do their thing. That entire linebacking core, are you able to pass coverage and are you able to get pressure on the quarterback to help the defensive line out so they're not getting double teamed and the offensive line has to worry about you? So I know that's not the answer, but I'm looking at all of them. Like, what can we do there to help?
Right.
I think Monte Sweat one-on-one is going to get pressure. I think one-on-one he's going to win.
Yes.
But if he's double teamed and nobody else is stepping up, we have a problem.
I would say that's some good analysis right there, my friend. Run game in particular, I think everyone wants to see what they do with Swift and Herbert or Roschon Johnson, how they balance that out, how Waldron balances that out, per se. Mine are both actually defensive, as much as I actually think DeAndre Swift's a great one. But I'm leaning on 2 guys that I'm wanting to see another step in the right direction, guys that are being touted by a lot of the Bears fans and analysts out there as like, hey, this is a big year for them, or they showed a lot last year that I maybe disagree with, or I just need to see more of. Gervin Dexter abso-freaking-lutely has been talked a lot this offseason. This is a game where it's like, look, we need a star interior guy that's going to be like a bully and get back there and generate pressure. That's why he was brought in as a second-round pick to Chicago as this, and he's been touting, and when he's talked to the media, he wants to be that. He feels like he's better this year. Are you going to start? Is this the leaping off point to being what we want you to be? And he's shown flashes last year. Again, helped with a great run defense last season, did generate some great pressures from time to time. Can he consistently get that better? That's what I want. I feel like he can. I feel like he has that talent. This is the leaping off point. I'm going to be watching his game real close on Sunday. The other one, and I don't know, and I'm actually curious what you think of this, because I'm actually a little not as fond of Tariq Stevenson as a lot of people are. I thought he had a very okay 2023 as a rookie. I know that a lot of people said he finished the second half of the season, that he was really good second half of the season. And he did have highlights. I just didn't think it was this like, oh my God, we have a 1B cornerback. I was like,
it didn't blow off the page.
That was my opinion. I was like, you know what? Yeah, again, like Dexter, potential, definitely showed it. I just need to see more consistently that, because the thing is, and this is what the Bears got burned a lot last year, is if you're not throwing Jalen Johnson's way, well, they still gave up easily upwards 238 yards a game every game passing. So I'm not saying you got to be perfect everywhere, but clearly when we were watching Bears football, obviously what the good offensive coordinators were doing, and we saw this against Green Bay, is, I'm just going to throw it to where Stevenson and Gordon are at. I'm just going to find that open guy, which is my thing. He's supposed to be the 1B cross from Johnson. You can't just have a Darrelle Revis there. Darrelle Revis had freaking Cromartie on the opposite side in the glory days of the Jets under Rex Ryan. I need Stevenson to be that Cromartie where I can lean on him and know that both sides are covered. Last year didn't feel that. And credit, he was a rookie. But this is the year where I need to see, like, okay, you took that next step. You are the Antonio Cromartie to that Darrelle Revis is what I want. So that's what I'm watching out for.
And then I wanted to say this earlier, but it's a perfect time to say it. Another defensive player that I'm going to watch for, he's 4th on the depth chart right now, is Austin Booker. They drafted him from Kansas.
Yeah. There's been a lot about Austin Booker this preseason. I've been seeing a lot of write-ups about him.
Yeah, right now this probably changes daily, but according to their depth chart today, he is the 4th, left defensive end. And people even said this when they drafted him, of he's not that big, so could he have used another year of college? And a lot of people agreed, like, he could have used another year of college to kind of get that. And they said that, like, well, if you're drafting him, he's kind of a developmental guy. But I'm going to watch him, not just for the first game, but like throughout the season, if he can get better and help be another rusher, because he is tall, he is lengthy. And so him as that stand-up defensive end to try to help out. And hopefully as the season goes on, if we are competing for a wild card spot, can he come in and take some reps? Now, he is behind Darrell Taylor, Dominic Robinson. He is behind all those guys. Now, does the depth chart always mean everything? No, because defensive line, as we all know, they rotate a lot and get guys in.
Yeah.
But when he does get his opportunity, is he going to go out there, and they probably won't double him because they're going to be like, he's not that good. So when he gets the chance to go one-on-one, not necessarily get the sack, but can he disrupt some things with his length, back down a ball and stuff like that? So I forgot about him earlier in the conversation, but because Illinois played them last year and he disrupted a lot against Illinois. And then I watched Kansas as the year went on. And so curious to see if he can come in and try to get developed as the year goes on, and any opportunity.
I think he has a good chance of moving ahead of Dominic Robinson in terms of favor. That was another player like Larry Borum. A lot of people thought he was on the chopping block possibly as someone that might not make the roster, and he did make the 53 man. So there's a chance. And again, when we talked about it, and I'm glad you brought this up and jogged my memory a little bit as well. That's the thing with Booker. A lot of raw talent maybe did come out early, but potential there to be a little bit more with him sitting in a bit of the backseat on, or so to say. You got Montez Sweat, hopefully as a role model-esque figure to that position at the edge. So yeah, I'm wondering what they do with him. Personally, if we're talking line as well, keep on using and rotating in Zach Pickens, because I thought he had a lot of solid moments last year, the South Carolina product. And clearly him and Billings are a really damn good defensive tackle rotation. So I do not mind seeing more Zach Pickens out there, especially for rundowns if they need to, and then switch them out when you need. So yeah, keep that coming. That was a great pickup from last year. He's a excellent rotational piece that Poles picked up. So good job on that. Yep.
You're welcome. That's why I'm here to jog people's memory.
I'm glad, because I remember vividly both you and I were very happy with the Booker pick back in the draft in April. So it's good.
I was excited for it. I know he'd be a project, but he's your typical 3rd down and 5 fast guy on the edge to go get the quarterback. And maybe that's his only role. Maybe when it is 3rd long, 4th and long passing situation, hey, get in there. Your job is to get the quarterback or bat it down if he tries to go throw a hot route. Like, that is your job until you prove that you can be a 3 snap down defensive end and then rotate out. Like that type of mentality. So yeah, I mean, again, pieces everywhere. We just got to plug them in the right spot, and they got to perform. Last year was kind of not a pass, but like, hey, I know some of you, this is the first time in this situation. Now it's time to earn your paycheck and get out there and play. So
it's winning time, man.
yeah,
it's winning time. It's time to go.
Yep. Yeah, I think that covers that. So we both have the Bears winning by 2 scores. Hopefully that comes to fruition. So it's in Chicago,
Please.
so it'll be a good environment for the Bears, and I'm pretty sure they'll sell out that game because first time seeing Caleb Williams out there.
I would be suspect if that game does not have all 61,000 in the spaceship.
The spaceship.
In the spaceship.
That damn spaceship.
Soon to hopefully be as long as the Illinois government approves it, a Lake Michigan side of basically a gem on the side of the lake with what I hope to be an excellent memorial to Soldier Field. Is what I really want that project to go through. By the way, I'm going to say as much as possible because I love the renderings. It's a great concept if they get the money. With
who's running Illinois, I don't know if that will go through.
I know that I know. Please reconsider. That's all I'm saying. It's a great looking project.
Well, he's a guy that looks like that he was picked on in high school and didn't play sports. So that's why I'm kind of.
Yeah, well, I have to change some things. I have to get someone else to discuss the avenues for funding.
Hey, I might run for governor one day and just say I'm going to fix this state, and maybe I will. Who knows? If I run for governor, I will podcast every day about it. And tell the people what I'm doing that day.
I can brag to my friends that I know that I am buddies with the Illinois governor,
and we'll fix
over here in Arizona in a Bears esque territory down here of fandom.
And I'll fix this state.
Nice.
I said this during COVID. I said if we can get a coach to run each state, we would be in a much better spot. But anyway.
More Tommy Tubervilles, is that what I'm hearing?
No. I'm talking about like Nick Saban type of coaches.
Okay. Just trying to make sure, because any old coach, huh? Well,
I know plenty of high school coaches that could run it better than. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I think Nick Saban should run the whole United States, but that's just me. I think he would get it done. That's just me.
You would be his campaign manager, or at least on his campaign staff. I know you would.
Him and Pat McAfee running the whole United States.
Oh, my.
Nick Saban, Pat McAfee, Joe Rogan, and who else do I want running the United States? Dwayne Johnson. There we go. Those 4 right there would fix it.
Freaking The Rock. I hope that way allows me to get more UFL football, grow the league via government interference or government
that would be intervention. That'd be his day one. UFL everywhere. That would be everywhere.
I decree the UFL is the government's league, and it will stay.
I think those 4 would fix the whole country, but that will never happen. That'll never happen.
Nah.
We're stuck with who
if The Rock can't take over the DC universe, can he really take over the government?
Hey, I have his thing right there.
I'm just saying, being honest. If he can't create a coup at Warner Brothers, can he really run the government?
Well, then you get a new guy taking over DC. James Gunn comes in, so you can't really blame him. Maybe at the time it was going to happen, and
yeah. No, you're right. You're right. Okay. No, you're right.
Then James Gunn comes in and says, "No. This is I worked at Marvel. This is what we're going to do."
I say nay. Rest in peace, John Panette.
Yeah. They're like, this is what we're going to do. And The Rock, sorry, you're not a part of this.
No.
And that's why Henry Cavill is going to go to the MCU, because he's like, oh, you don't want me Superman anymore? Bye-bye.
Cavalrine.
The
Cavalrine.
We'll treat you better here than those shitheads down the street.
That's what we said to Candace Owens, his husband.
Oh, God. All right. Well, Bears are going to win. hopefully. And like I said, we're doing our best to do it weekly to talk about the. We'll try to do post games, pre games, and whatever we can do.
Yeah.
We'll try our best. As long as Steve's schedule allows it, and then we'll get it going. So thanks everybody. Like and subscribe, all that good stuff. Check out the Bear Down segment on the YouTube channel. Go Bears, and we'll see you guys next.